Hello there, Peter. Welcome to the Brand Architect podcast. I'm happy to have you back because we did one Blab interview and many actually liked it. They said you should have it on a podcast, but it was too noisy. So we're doing the second take, and this time we'll have more structured interview for the podcast as well. Welcome back.
Wow, thank you. I'm very happy to be here again.
Okay, so usually what happens with me is when I'm having guests over, it's most probably someone whom I have noticed online already, and most probably I have already communicated beforehand, so I have certain relationship with these people. And based on that, I know what they are doing, so I'm usually doing the intro. The problem with you was I sort of knew what you were doing, but I wasn't that sure. So that's why I'm gonna leave it to you, and you're gonna introduce yourself.
Wow. Okay. I guess first of all, I'm not a full-time entrepreneur, writer, or anything like that. I have a full-time career where I work in medical devices, but on the side, I'm a writer. I started out blogging, geez, a very long time ago, probably out in 2004, if memory serves.
Wow.
But at that time, that was more of an online diary. Just putting thoughts out. Actually, blogging to build an audience, I didn't start until around 2009, I'd say. And it's been a very slow process. A few years ago, I started writing for a couple of publications. So I started writing for Good Men Project. I've written a couple of articles for Addicted to Success and a couple of others here and there. Obviously, I've been going on my own blog this entire time. And last year, I started writing on Medium. I had a couple of pieces do really well within the space of a week. And then I got an email from Observer.com saying, hey, we'd really like you to come and write for us. So now I'm in my first, I guess you'd call, well, it's not professional because it doesn't pay the bills, but I'm in my first paid writing gig. So I did a piece a couple of months back on Bernie Sanders. That's actually been my biggest thing to date, and that did 900,000 views as of a couple of days ago. I just checked again. So that's where I'm at to give your listeners an idea.
Okay, well, interesting. So I'm trying to rewind back and understand what's going on. So you started blogging in 2004. So you weren't intentionally blogging, you were just, using it as a diary. From 2006, you said you started doing it in order to grow an audience?
A little bit later than that, probably 2009, I think, thereabouts.
2009, okay. And I guess from 2009 until when your Medium post sort of blew up, you were not getting the traffic you are getting now thanks to the visibility you got from Medium posts, right?
Oh, not even close. The first few years I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I just wrote and put it out there on Facebook, and I think for my first site I had, if memory serves, for the couple of years I had it up maybe 15,000 views all up over like 2 or 3 years. So like absolutely nothing. After that, I was reading stuff from, people like Derek Halpern, Ramit Sethi, Tim Ferriss, all those types.
Yeah.
And I started to get a bit more savvy, and I thought, this will be easy now. I know what to do, and I did a little better. And the last couple of years, I managed sort of 100,000 or so views for the entire year, which, we all know it's nothing. But, it's a damn sight better than 15,000 views over 2 or 3 years. So that was kind of heartening. But yeah, it didn't sort of blow up for me until last year.
Okay, so then I have two questions for you, and I'll start with the
Mm,
first one. Many people, for that long period of time, if they didn't see traction, they would most probably give up doing that. I mean, most people do. They just, they stick to
mm,
it for a little while. They wait for certain results. They have certain expectations, and when things don't happen, they get discouraged and they give up and they move to something else. So, what was that something? I mean, how did you manage to keep on sticking to it for so long without seeing any sufficient traction?
Um, I guess it's two things. I think I've always got something to say about something.
Okay.
And the second is it's just as any writer knows, whether you're a fiction writer or a non-fiction writer, whatever you write about, you can't help writing. And yes, like when you're not getting views and everyone's ignoring you, it's as bad as being criticized and being told you suck and you're never going to amount to anything. So look, like it's not like I was even saying to myself, "Oh, just keep going, you'll get there," and that kind of thing. Like at times, I absolutely hated it, but it was just a compulsion to keep writing. I had times, especially would have been early last year, where I stopped for like 2 or 3 months because I was so tired of it all, and after a while, I just got the urge again, and I couldn't help but come back to it.
Okay, so yeah, great. I mean, I guess that's who writers are. There are people who cannot not write. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's very logical. So okay, the piece on Medium that actually blew up and sort of brought this traffic in and brought you the visibility that you didn't have before. Did you actually figure out what was it in there? I mean, what was different, or why it actually got such traction and why so many people shared it? Did you figure it out? What was the difference? Because it was the same person writing, and I presume it wasn't like absolutely more different than you usually. I mean, was there anything different? What you think actually brought to where you are?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of thinking about that recently, and I think it's because I was using, to sound incredibly pretentious, what I'd call my authentic voice, because that piece, the first one, was about why I was discouraged with Medium, why I had such high hopes for it, and why it wasn't good, and a whole lot of commenters came in saying, everyone knows that you just that you can write a piece about Medium and it'll do well and that kind of thing. But it wasn't like that at all. I had a strong feeling about something. I was kind of pissed off, and it was just a matter of me putting what I really thought about something out there. And when people saw that, they started reading another piece that I'd written before that, where I'd really taken the gloves off. That was like a pure and utter rant piece. I think it was on the health and fitness industry. No, that's right. It was about the lifestyle design thing. And that was me. That was me just like not trying to please anyone. Just I have something to say, and here's what it is. And those pieces do well for me, I think, because I think a lot differently to most people. I spend a lot of time in my own head, way more than most people do, which is probably not a healthy thing, but it means that I'm always thinking about things all the time. Like it almost keeps me up at night sometimes. And I'll look at things from a billion different angles. And when I write something like that, and judging by the comments, it's something that people have thought for a long time, but maybe they couldn't put words to, and they see what I've written and it's just like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So I think that's what it is.
Okay, do you think? I mean, I also think that there is something in it, like most probably you didn't really think about the audience and really think about the people who will be reading it later on, because it felt as if you sort of, you didn't have these barriers and you didn't have this cautious feeling of being careful with words and making sure you don't insult anyone and all that stuff. So it was very raw, it was very angry, and it sort of it showed how exactly you feel about things without any filters, without any censorship and anything like that. So do you think that that also might have had any effect on the thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially where we're at right now, people are worried far too much about their image, what the audience thinks, what's trending. Like they're actually writing for page views rather than writing because they have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you're trying to do that, you're trying to be like a day trader. Investing is really difficult, and you can either be someone like Warren Buffett, who doesn't pay attention so much to the trends, who's taking a really long-term view, or you can be the day trader who is sitting there manically, like making hundreds of trades every minute. And you can do that as a writer and write for page views, but it's going to be incredibly stressful. You're going to miss more often than you hit, and it's probably not going to be so satisfying. Whereas when you write because you have something to say, if it's good and it's authentic, then there's going to be people that agree with you, disagree with you, but you're going to get a reaction. Whereas if you're trying to write to please people or follow trends, people might click on you, read a bit, whatever. You're not going to get those strong emotions.
Okay, so let's see. I mean, the way I imagine it, you basically opened up, and that's when usually we're looking for the audience, but in this case, the audience found you.
Mm.
So the piece went viral. People started resonating with it. They started sharing it. It went viral. More people came in, and you got this visibility. So many of us are actually creating content just for that result, to be visible, to make sure that people know that you exist, that you are writing certain things, or you're creating a certain content, so they can consume, they can like, they can come back, etc., etc. So once you reach that point, what changed? I mean, before you were writing for just a small group of people. Now you had this visibility and you had this huge traffic, and you have, like, from now on, whatever you will be writing, more people will be reading it, and you already know it in advance. So what changes in this case? Once you are there, what happens?
Well, really nothing. I try and make sure now, like, because I'm fairly sure that I'm right about why everything went viral, and traffic and everything since then would indicate that. I'm going to keep doing things the way I'm doing them. I wrote a piece that went up a couple of weeks ago about China, and my wife actually looked it over and she said, "Oh, are you sure you want to put this out there? They've given you a paid position here. Like, they might not like what you have to say." And I said, "Well, that's how I got here in the first place. I'm not going to start trying to please people now that I've gotten somewhere, because I'm not trying to please people." So I think it's a matter of staying true to what has worked for me and what satisfies me.
Okay, yeah, I see. Well, the other interesting thing that I noticed, I mean, everyone is preaching about finding your own niche, sticking to the niche, and niching down. The smaller it is, better results you get, and all that stuff. So I personally don't really believe in that. And looking at you, I mean, you don't really have a niche. I'm looking at what you've written. It's like pretty much everything about.
Yep.
So it's not really about anything specific. It's not for a certain group of people. You just put out your thoughts about different things. So how does it work with you, for you? I mean, do you actually know? Do you have any trends in terms of what kind of people come to you for your content, since it's all over the place?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Um, really, I try not to look at stats too much. The stuff that I put on Observer, it'll tell me, what social platforms traffic's coming from, how much traffic there is, but it doesn't tell me demographics like, 30 to 40-year-old males or anything like that. So, and to be honest, all the Twitter followers I get, I don't even really check too much to see what sort of demographic they are either. I think, yeah, if I feel like if you have a product you're trying to sell, that kind of thing is important. But in my case, I'm not really trying to sell something, I guess. So I don't think in that realm.
Okay, so can we say, like, you're just sharing your thoughts, and you're being yourself in your content. You write about whatever you think at that moment is important, and then whoever resonates and whoever feels the same way just comes to you. So it's like, you're just, who the people are those who sort of, who think like you or don't. Actually, let's talk about this. The piece that went viral, and that's how I discovered you, actually. It had very controversial. I mean, since it was a very controversial piece, it obviously got a controversial comments, and not all of the comments were very positive. Some of them were quite disturbing as well. So, how did you deal with that? I mean, first of all, with this, attention and flow of so much engagement that you were not used to, and second, with all this negative feedback that you were getting. I mean, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that, because it's something that we all want. I mean, however much people say, no, I don't care about engagement or comments and all that, everyone cares about it. We all want that sort of that fame, so to speak. And when you do get it, all of a sudden, you expect to be prepared for it, and you're not. I can tell you that right now. I mean, I had a fairly, I think, realistic view of it going in, that, no matter what you write, you're going to have a percentage of people that love it, a percentage of people that despise it, and then a percentage in the middle that might have something insightful to say, or, be sitting on the fence. Having said that, I do... There's a really good Mark Manson piece, I think it was last year, and he said, what kind of shit sandwich do you want to eat? Because whatever job you do, no matter how great the job is, there's going to be some sort of shit sandwich you have to eat doing that job. And can you accept it? And for me, with writing, the shit sandwich is comments, because that's the thing. Like, I work sometimes very stressful job. And last week I was getting off a plane, coming home on Friday night. I'd been away from my family for a week. It had been a ridiculous month. I just had to deal with another crisis. And I open up Twitter, and some asshole has sought me out and left a comment basically abusing me. And in the state of mind that I started tapping furiously away with a comment, and I had to just step back and say, stop writing, turn Twitter off, do not respond. The next day, though, after a good night's sleep and some thinking about it, I thought, no, you know what? I'm not emotional anymore, but if you're going to come to my Twitter account, it's one thing if you want to leave a crappy comment, that's fine. If you want to come to my Twitter and try and abuse me, I'm not going to let you off. So I sort of fired back at him and then blocked him, because I knew that sort of person, not having the last word, would piss them off. Having said that, I'm not too proud of doing that, but I'm human. But comments are hard to deal with. And I asked myself the question, not long ago, I think it's a Tim Ferriss question actually, what's the easiest way to deal with this? And the easiest way to deal with comments is just to not read them, to pretend they don't exist. Because, look, I'd love to respond to all the people that have positive comments, but there's too many. And the amount of time I'd have to spend responding to negative comments, like fleshing things out, explaining myself over and over, that would be time taken away from writing a whole heap more. So, you know, I find it better, like, hey, don't get me wrong, I appreciate all comments, I love the engagement, but at the end of the day, even if they were all positive comments, I don't have time to respond to all of that. Maybe if it was my full-time job, I would, but I've got a full-time job. So for better or worse, now I don't even read comments, and that way I don't even have to think about them.
Okay, so in that case, you don't engage with your audience at all, or do they email you?
No.
So you don't. You just write whatever you write, you put it out there, and you move on and write the next piece. Is that it?
Yeah, as illogical as that sounds, yeah, I don't engage with my audience. It doesn't mean I don't appreciate them, but I don't have time.
I see, but in that case, how do they know that you appreciate them? Well, apart from the fact that you just said that, so my listeners know that you do. But what about your audience?
Well, that's an interesting question you ask, because that's the prevailing wisdom is you've got to reach out to your audience. You have to show them that you appreciate them. You know, you've got to be seen and this and that. But the reason they came to start reading my writing wasn't because they liked me or they knew me or they had any idea about me. They came because they liked my work. So I'm going to keep putting out good work, and my way to keep them satisfied is to get better, to use the time I'd normally be engaging with them by, instead of doing that, trying to get better, like really trying to improve. I mean, look, when I see someone link something of mine in Twitter, that kind of thing, I'll say thanks. I'll retweet, I'll put hearts and all that kind of thing. But as far as like responding to comments, it takes away too much time.
Okay, I see. So you mentioned that now you have this paid gig for writing. So you've been writing for free for quite a long time. You're still doing that, and then you have a writing gig which pays. Is there any difference in terms of how you approach that? I mean, do you sort of feel more responsible, or are there any restrictions? How do you feel about writing for yourself on Medium or on your blog for free, and writing for someone else and being paid for that?
Yeah, there are compromises, definitely, which obviously I've deemed the compromises are worth it. Obviously, I'm subject to editing. So I might choose a title, and when the piece goes up, the editors put something completely different on it, which, you know, I don't get a say in. Likewise, they might take a paragraph out here or there. I've actually seen them put typos into my writing, which irritates me no end. But there's also the fact that they haven't given me a set schedule because I'm considered a freelance contributor, but I'm aiming for one piece a week. And that means that I don't generally get to go really in depth. Some of the stuff I've got on Medium is just pages and pages and pages long, stuff that I spent months on, but I don't have that sort of time. So I do have to now limit myself to sort of the 1,000 to 2,000 word range, and I generally can't spend months on it, so it's not that I'm rushing myself, but I'm taking less time than I would like a lot of the time, and it's a challenge because now I have to get better in that space and make sure that my writing lives up to my standards, because you know, my writing can do 1 million page views, but if I think it's a piece of crap, then I'm not going to be too happy with it.
Okay, yeah, I see. So, I mean, what is next? Would you are you in this place where many people are, where they wanna transition with the time from a full-time job towards writing full-time and doing what you love,
Mm.
or I know that your whole piece that went viral was about doing what you love and quitting your job and corporate and all that, the already traditional sort of way we
Mm.
talk about entrepreneurship versus the bad corporate world. So taking into account all that, what are your thoughts now?
Yeah, so, and again, prevailing wisdom right now would be, okay, so what are you going to do to take advantage of this? You know, what's next? What are you going to leverage? Who are you going to contact? My thoughts are, I'm not going to try and become 40 before I'm 40. I've just been offered something that I've wanted for a long time, which is being paid for my writing. So right now, rather than trying to get to some next level, how about really becoming good on this level? I mean, yes, I would love to write full time in, you know, the next decade or so. I've got so many ideas for books and that kind of thing that I'm just not going to get around to for 2, 3, 4 years, the way my work takes up my life. But rushing into that kind of thing would just undo all the work I've done so far. So right now for me, it's appreciate what I've got, try and keep improving, keep getting better, and the opportunities will come. I've got a good platform now where I can get noticed. So the next thing is to be noticed because I've got a large group of people that are very invested in what I'm putting across. I mean, I'm not aiming to be a flash in the pan, someone who makes a whole lot of money really quickly and then disappears. I would rather, I'm aiming for Christopher Hitchens, you know, John Steinbeck, that kind of thing. And I'll probably never get there because I read their stuff and I'm just constantly in awe of how not close to them I am. But yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a high standard you've set. It's yeah. I
Mm.
don't think many would would get there soon. So it's not something to. Well, yeah. I mean, I totally get that. What I don't get is usually. I mean, I've interviewed more than 130 writers. Usually writers are very impatient, so this pragmatic view of taking it one step at a time and waiting until you're really good at that stage until going to the other one, I mean, that really surprises me because usually we're very impatient, we're sort of very irrational and all that stuff. So that's an interesting thing here. The other thing is it's interesting. I mean, I would love to observe and see what happens later because we all speak so much about engaging with the audience, about this connection, about the fact that they really want to actually get into a dialogue with the author and all that stuff, and they really want a certain time with you. So many people are. I think that's partly why live streaming is actually popular because they sort of see behind the scenes, they can ask questions in real time and all that stuff. So I mean, this is completely opposite way that you're approaching that, and it's interesting to see how it's gonna be. So you're basically, I mean, many people now are actually into personal branding, into making their personality as part of their brand, as part of who they are, what they do, what their message is. So your brand is purely your content. That's the way you position yourself, as far as I understand, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, so that's something that is very rare, and it will be very interesting to see how it goes, because it's just the same way we spoke about niching down, and that you're doing completely the opposite. Here it's the same case. So with the time, and with the niche, now we know that it works without niching down. I mean, you've proved that.
Mm.
Now we'll see what happens with the other part.
Yeah, I mean, I think branding is important, but I think way too many people are putting the cart before the horse. Branding is important when you've got a good product. Before you've got a good product, it's you like, what exactly are you branding for? I had someone contact me saying, "Oh, I want to build this great worldwide brand and blah blah blah." And I had a look at what he was doing, and I said, "Look, that's cool and everything, but what exactly are people going to read your stuff for? What have you got to offer that anyone actually wants?" And I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's like doing all this personal branding, if you don't have something really good to offer, is like starting a business and spending all your time getting business cards and logos and all that kind of thing. And then you sit down and you say, "Oh, so what am I going to sell?" You've got things the wrong way around.
Well, yes. I mean, it just reminded me of a conversation I had recently. Just a few days ago, I was approached by a guy who was asking for podcasting advice because he was going to launch his podcast in a few weeks. So I was like, okay, that a podcast is not a business, right? If you're doing this to make money, it's not going to work. You have to have something on a backhand to sell later on, if money is the reasoning behind launching a podcast. And he said, yes, absolutely, I know that. So I said, okay, so what is your backend product? And he said, an online course. And I'm like, okay, great. What about? And he said, I'm going to teach people how to podcast and launch podcasts. And I'm like, so for me, that was like, okay. So yeah, I mean, that's when people brand heavily to sort of compensate the lack of the thing, I guess. But yeah, that happens. And sometimes it works, surprisingly. Sometimes it does. So I won't be surprised if his course sells, although we never know. But anyway, yeah, so, well, I mean, thank you very much for coming over. It was really nice. It was definitely non-standard, which I love doing.
I'm glad.
I mean, yeah, I love doing this because usually the space is crowded. We have loads. I mean, we're overloaded with content. Now we spend more time choosing who to follow and what content to consume versus consuming it, actually, because it's so much. And we end up getting the same messages over and over again. And since there are too many, we take them as a pure, true value, which not always may be the case. So it's always nice to get, the optional alternative views and how those work, because there is always a space for different options, and there are different ways to get wherever you want to get. So this is the alternative that we've got from you.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I think people need to know that you don't have to follow this formula. You can actually just concentrate on getting really good, because eventually it'll happen. Whereas if you go with the formula all the time, you're just following a billion other people who are, in it for money or fame or whatever. I'm not going to say anything so cliche as to do it because you love it and all that. But, be different.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's interesting how everyone is so different, but at the end you end up with such a similar content from all these different people. That's amazing. So yeah, I mean, that's one thing I usually sort of repeat over and over again. I guess if you just be yourself, if you are yourself, then no one can copy you, because no one can be yourself. So that's like the easiest way to brand. just being yourself.
That's right. And I mean, I think everyone thinks they're different, because you're in the online space and you say, I'm different from all those people that are in the corporate area or whatever, but they don't realize you might be different from them, but you're the same as everyone else online.
Yeah.
So the area you're inhabiting, you're not even close to unique in any way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's why I guess these days there are so many opportunities to show who you are and you know how different you are, that you know it's just a matter of finding out what is about you that is different, and just, you know, showing that part of you in everything you do. And then most probably, just in like in your case, whoever likes that sort of thing will gather around you, and you don't really have to chase the audience will come to you.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, I do have to caveat all of this and say, yeah, there was a little bit of luck involved. I can't promise everyone that, you know, everything's going to work for you. I mean, I wrote the right kind of thing at the right time on the right platform when people were looking. And I mean, you can't purposely reproduce that.
So you mean you're not gonna make a course saying how to make your post on Medium viral in 2 days?
No, there's already plenty of people doing that, unfortunately, who have come to me for advice, and I told them to get lost.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have doubts that you have many friends, because you're very honest with people. They don't like that.
No, you're right. I don't have a large circle of friends, put it that way, and I can offend people very quickly, but I'm a lot more toned down in person than I am online.
Okay. Well, I mean, thanks a lot for coming. It was a nice interview. So I'll be in touch with you to see how all this works.
Sure. Thanks very much, Andy.
Take care.